My name is Mave. I married Remy when I was 21. We had been dating since high school. Remy was popular and good at sports, and I fell in love with him. After high school, we both started working. 3 years later, he proposed to me with a bouquet of roses. He said, "I love you, Mave. I will make you happy forever. Will you marry me?" I was so happy that I started crying. When I finally calmed down, I said, "Yes, I will, thank you." Our wedding plans moved quickly. We chose a date between our birthdays. One day, Remy told me that his mother wanted to meet me, so we planned a visit. I felt nervous, but happy. When we arrived, Remy rang the doorbell. A woman answered. It was his mother. She looked elegant and kind. "Mom, this is Mave," Remy said. I introduced myself politely. She smiled and said, "What a lovely girl, you must be tired, come in." I felt relieved. She seemed nicer than I had expected. Maybe we would get along well. We sat in the living room and chatted. She asked, "Do you have any hobbies?" "I like traveling," I said. "Oh, me too, traveling is wonderful," she replied. We were having a good conversation when Remy stood up. "I'll be right back, bathroom," he said. "Okay," I said. As soon as he left, his mother's expression changed. She looked at me coldly and asked, "Mave, can I talk to you?" I was surprised. "What is it?" I asked. She glared at me. "Can you do housework?" I felt nervous. "I can do basic things," I said. She sighed loudly. "It's a shame Remy chose to marry someone like you." I froze. Did she really just say that? Then she said, "Can you two just break up?" Shocked, I replied, "No, you can't just ask that out of nowhere." At that moment, Remy came back. "What are you talking about?" he asked. I didn't know what to say. His mother quickly smiled and said, "Oh, just talking about cooking." Then she added, "Mave and I will take care of the house when you get married, right, Mave?" She smiled, but her eyes looked different. I forced a smile back. After that, I had to see his family often, but I never felt comfortable. I just smiled and stayed quiet. When we got closer to the wedding, I asked Remy, "Can we live alone at first?" But he was excited. "My parents are looking forward to living with us, and we need to save money for our own home." I couldn't argue. It made sense to save money, so I agreed. But after the wedding, things got worse. Whenever we were alone, my mother-in-law would say, "Why can't you do anything right? You're useless. How did you even think you could marry my son?" Living with her was harder than I had imagined. My mother-in-law kept treating me badly. She gave me all the housework and complained about everything I did. Every day, she criticized me, and I was getting really tired of it. But after a year, Remy got transferred to a new job, and we had to move away from his hometown. Now, we only saw his parents during Thanksgiving or Christmas. Our second New Year's Eve was peaceful, but the next year, Remy suggested we visit his parents for the holiday. I wasn't excited, but I agreed since we didn't see them often anymore. The day after we arrived, Remy went out drinking with his old friends, leaving me alone with his mother. My father-in-law went with him, so I was stuck. I had hoped for a relaxing time, but instead, my mother-in-law told me to clean the entire house. "What, all of it?" I asked, surprised. "Don't question me, just do it," she snapped. I didn't want to argue during the holidays, so I did as she said. While I was cleaning, she kept watching me, pointing out dust and criticizing me. "Didn't I teach you how to clean properly before?" she said. Then, she added, "It's such a shame that Remy has to live with a useless wife like you." I wanted to say something, but I just kept quiet. After that, I told Remy that visiting his parents was exhausting and I didn't want to go as often. But he just said, "You have to come for New Year's. Mom really wants to see us." He made it sound like I was the problem. The worst part was that my mother-in-law only acted mean when Remy wasn't around. In front of him, she was overly nice, so I couldn't even explain what was happening. Every year, I forced myself to go, telling myself, "It's just once a year, I can handle it," but every visit was miserable. I wanted to stand up for myself, but every time she made a mean comment, I just felt like crying instead. I could never say what I really wanted to. But after 4 years, I had enough. Before our fifth New Year's Eve visit, I finally told Remy, "I don't want to go back to your parents' house. I don't want to see your mom." Remy looked at me and calmly asked, "Is it because she makes snide remarks?" I was shocked. "Wait, you knew?" "Yeah, I noticed," he said, still looking at his phone. I felt tears in my eyes. "If you knew, Why didn't you help me? Living with her was so hard for me. But Remy just sighed like he was annoyed. Mave, you're fine. Just try harder. My mom is only correcting you because you need it. In that moment, something inside me broke. He knew I was being treated badly and did nothing. Worse, he thought his mother was right. I gave up. I didn't have the energy to argue anymore, so I went to his parents' house that year too. Like always, my mother-in-law started criticizing me. I told you last year, but you still haven't learned, she said. But this time, it felt different, like she knew I had complained to Remy. She made meaner comments, even when he was in the room. And instead of defending me, Remy laughed along with her. Can you do anything right when you're at your husband's house? He joked. But the truth was, even when we lived alone, Remy never helped with anything. He left all the housework to me. With every comment from my mother-in-law and every laugh from my husband, my frustration kept growing. Before I knew it, I had taken off my apron and looked straight at my mother-in-law. I'm leaving, I said. She glared at me. What are you talking about? You're just walking away? Are you crazy? Do you expect me to do everything? I nodded. Yes, please, or better yet, if you want something done, do it yourself. I'm done. I packed my things and left without looking back. I could hear my mother-in-law and Remy yelling, but I ignored them. I didn't need to stay there anymore. On the train home, I kept telling myself, this is the right choice. When I got home, I didn't check any of the angry messages from Remy or his mother. A few days later, Remy came back and said, let's get a divorce. I was surprised. What, divorce? You talked back to my mom, didn't you? She's done with you, he said. Besides, I have a girlfriend now. She's younger and cuter than you. My mom thinks I should be with her instead. I stared at him. That's cheating. He shrugged. Yeah, but you made me do it. Both you and my mom have been a pain. At that moment, I realized nothing mattered anymore. Maybe part of me had hoped he would regret everything and change, but it was useless. Okay, I understand, I said and packed my things. I went back to my parents' house. Walking in the snow from the station, I felt lost. When my parents opened the door, they looked shocked. What happened? My mom asked. Before I could answer, tears poured from my eyes. Everything I had been holding in for so long finally came out. I sobbed loudly as my parents hugged me and patted my back. After I calmed down and told them everything, my mom cried, and my dad turned red with anger. You did well, he said, patting my head, and just like that, I started crying again. My dad introduced me to a lawyer to help with the divorce and inheritance matters. In the end, my ex-husband's family fell apart. My father-in-law divorced my mother-in-law and kicked her out. Since Remy's affair was exposed at work, he got demoted. My ex-mother-in-law moved into a tiny apartment with Remy, who was now struggling financially. He called me many times, but I ignored him. Then, one day, he and his mother showed up at my parents' house. My mom answered the door. What do you want? She asked coldly. They both fell to their knees. Mave, I'm so sorry, please forgive me, my ex-husband begged. Mave, it was all my fault, please come back, my ex-mother-in-law pleaded. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Remy looked up at me. I broke up with her. Please come back to me. I was disgusted. What are you even saying? You're pathetic. Looking at them kneeling in front of me, I sighed. Can you leave? You're bothering me. Remy just sat there, looking defeated. Please forgive him, his mother cried. I turned to my mom. Can you call the police? Of course, she said, taking out her phone. Even then, my mother-in-law kept begging. Soon, the police arrived and took them away. They were warned to stay away from me and my family. Later, I heard that Remy got transferred to a terrible job, where he was overworked and underpaid, still living with his mother in misery. Knowing that, I felt relieved. After all those years of suffering, I finally decided to take it easy and enjoy my life.